Imagine a world in which there was a distinction between doctors and physicians. And imagine further that doctors were bound by the Hippocratic Oath to keep the good of the patient as the highest priority, while physicians simply had to do whatever was expedient. To top it off, it was your responsibility to distinguish the doctors from the physicians. That's the exact situation that exists today in the world of investment advice. Financial advisors come in two basic varieties. The most common variety work for broker-dealers like Merrill Lynch or investment firms affiliated with banks and insurance companies. These brokers are held to a suitability standard. That means they can recommend any product that is considered suitable for their clients. The other type of financial advisor is a registered investment advisor. These advisors are required to serve in a fiduciary capacity for their clients. In other words, their recommendations must always be in the client's best interests. The operative words in that description are suitability and fiduciary, and investors really need to understand the difference. Here's a really simple way to think about it. Let's say you need some broad exposure to U.S. stocks, and an index fund benchmarked to the S&P 500 is the way to go. A broker is likely to offer you an index fund that pays an upfront commission and annual trail commissions. In order to pay those commissions, the fund has to boost its expenses, and that reduces the return you get on your investment. Nonetheless, it is a suitable investment, and the broker is under no obligation to inform you that there are less expensive alternatives. A registered investment advisor, on the other hand, would have a fiduciary obligation to recommend a low-cost index mutual fund or exchange-traded fund. Doing otherwise would be grounds to lose his or her license. This table provides real-life examples of what I mean. The Vanguard Fund is a classic low-cost index fund with an annual expense of less than 0.2%. The DWS Fund is a broker-sold fund with an annual expense of 1.37%. And the RIDEX Fund comes in as worst of class with an outrageous expense ratio of 2.28%. Both the DWS and RIDEX funds would satisfy the standards of suitability, and the advisors selling those funds would be perfectly within their legal rights. But the real issue is not what's legal, it's what's right. Take a look at the 3-year annualized returns of these funds. You'll see that the high-expense funds dramatically underperform the low-expense fund by a full 1.5% in the case of RIDEX versus Vanguard. This is a case where you make less money, so your broker can make more. Mary Shapiro, who heads up the SEC, often points out that the investing public believes all financial advisors do the same thing, and they don't really understand the distinction between investment advisors and broker-dealers. But how could they? The distinction between a suitability standard and a fiduciary standard represents the kind of fine print legalese that confuses rather than educates. And in reality, it is part of the fine print legal disclosure that no one reads. This is actual wording from a Smith-Barney proposal stating that the Smith-Barney advisor's interests may not always be the same as the client's. The bottom line is that the major difference between brokers and investment advisors, and the key thing to remember, is that brokers sell while advisors advise. And while there is nothing wrong with selling products and earning a commission, individual investors have a right to know when they're being sold and when they're being advised. Then they can decide which is the better approach for them. Thank you for watching, and remember, you worked hard for your money. Make sure it's working just as hard for you.